All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, there are those that will view the National Football League Scouting Combine as being very helpful, while others not so much. But there is no denying the scope of this event has grown in popularity over the years. The combine is now a televised event, which gives fans the opportunity to see potential draft prospects go through numerous physical tests, which is highlighted by the 40-yard dash, as well as a test to see how many times that someone can bench 225 pounds. And by giving access to the draft to so many, whether it be through television or in person for the select few who have been able to purchase tickets in recent years, it's made way for bloggers, vloggers, and anybody else that wants to work on their mock draft the ability to obtain more information. But the question that I am posing is the combine overrated and has it served its purpose? I say this because some NFL front offices focus way too much on what a player does at the combine. Now, sure, somebody can run a sub 4.5 40, or somebody can bench 225 pounds 35 times. But on Sunday, can that guy play football at a high level? Too much, from my opinion, is put on a guy in regards to what he can do in shorts and a t-shirt as opposed to what he does in pads, to the point where we've seen some potential prospects in recent years focus so much on simply training just to get ready for the combine. Now, there are many of the top prospects that are now just using the combine in Indianapolis to meet with personnel from front offices around the NFL while saving their workouts for their pro days at their respective schools. And when you think about the workout warriors, and I know it's been well over 25 years, but one guy that still comes to mind for me is Mike Mamula. I remember when he was coming out of Boston College. And, he was one of those guys, he just lit it up at the combine. And then the Eagles ended up drafting him in the top 10. And Mike Mamula never really panned out. And by the year 2000, he was out of the NFL altogether. You go back to last year, David Ajabu out of Michigan. And of course, he ended up being drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. But you go back to his pro day, David Ajabu was expected to be a first round pick, more or less, probably in the top 15. And Ajabu ruptured that Achilles at his pro day at Michigan. And, the Ravens did draft him, obviously not in the first round. And basically, this past season became his redshirt year in the NFL. But I look at it like this: it's all about what a guy can do, not how he looks again in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. It's one of those where, okay, you understand the shuttle, you understand the 40-yard dash, this, that, and the third. I get it. But I can't harp on this enough. Can a guy play football? And typically the teams that we see that fall short of making the right decisions when it comes and focusing too much on the draft are the teams that are consistently picking early on in the draft. Why? Because they have those misses, and you cannot afford to have those misses when you're picking so early on in the draft. It's all about finding guys that fit your system, finding guys that are good football players, finding guys that are going to help you win. And more often than not, we see the teams that are picking later on in the drafts in the first rounds. Those are the guys, they have players fall to them that really should have been taken earlier in the draft. And because of that, these teams are able to basically keep the machine going as far as having success and being consistent playoff teams and being consistent championship teams. And even, with the pro day factor, obviously the bigger schools such as your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Texases, your Ohio States, your LSUs, and so many others, they're going to get a litany of scouts and personnel from front offices around the league to come, because obviously these schools that I mentioned, like other, powerhouses, they're going to send multiple guys to the NFL early and often every single year. I know the combine is an opportunity for some of the guys at the smaller schools. You got to get an invite first and foremost. You can't just show up. Yeah, but for them to get an opportunity to show what they can do. Now, some of these smaller schools, they still have pro days. And even if they don't have pro days, these guys played football throughout the year. They have game tape. And getting back to the game tape for me, even with the pro days, you see some of these teams go to the pro days and they're in awe as far as how a quarterback throws a football, how many completions he had at his pro day. Well, guess what? It's scripted. If a quarterback, is 25 or 25 passing at his pro day, he should be, because he's playing in an offense that suits him. He's taking his favorite plays from there. He's, more than likely throwing to his favorite receiver or receivers. No defense is pressing him. There's no offensive line, and the receivers aren't covered. So what do you have to worry about? It's the same thing for a receiver. You don't have to worry about a DB pressing you. You don't have to worry about coverages changing. You don't have to worry about having to adjust your route due to the fact of blitzes. It's the same thing with running backs. You don't have to worry about blitz pickup. It's all about speed. It's all about speed for the pass rushers getting to the quarterback. It's all about, the offensive linemen showing their feet, and they don't have to worry about pass rushers. So I think a lot of these things tend to get overlooked by some of those at least, who are scouting the talent. And that I think that is where, the message has been, swayed, diluted, any way you want to, try to squirm it. But at the end of the day, a guy like Jerry Glanville, former NFL head coach, I know he never went to the combine, and people can say whatever they want. Obviously, Jerry Glanville didn't win a championship during his time in the NFL as a head coach, but he simply wanted to see what a player could do on tape. What could they do in game situations? What could they do when the game is on the line? That's what you need to see. Now, if you want to take the opportunity uh, to go to a pro day, if you want to take the opportunity to sit down and talk to a prospective prospect at the scouting combine and see, where that player's temperament is at. Is he going to be somebody that's going to fit in your football team? I'm all for that. I'm just saying, in my opinion, and of course, this is just my opinion, I feel that the actual purpose of the scouting combine has been very diluted. Are you really going to sit out there and draft an offensive lineman, because an offensive tackle, because he ran a 4.5 as opposed to a 4.8, without really trying to see, can this guy play football? We've seen over the years where teams have drafted running backs or wide receivers just because that person ran a 4.3 as opposed to somebody running a 4.5. And then, of course, in some cases, the player who ran a 4.5 had the better football career than somebody who ran a 4.3. So it's just one of those where it comes down to analysis paralysis, and you have to use your brain and you have to use your eyes as opposed to what the system is saying. Can this guy play football? And I think that is something that the combine has gotten away from. But with that said, would the National Football League ever sacrifice ratings and television money for practicality by shifting away from their current model of the combine? And the answer for me is no. Because if we know the NFL, they're all about money. We've seen the NFL basically spread things out throughout the entire calendar year as far as having something going on, every month. You think about it, the regular season begins in September. The football season now ends during the second week of February, between starting the season a little bit or later, rather, excuse me, adding an additional playoff game, and then of course adding more teams to the playoffs in general. So now the season rather ends in February. Free agency is going to begin this month. You have the NFL draft next month, and of course there's going to be plenty of lead up to the NFL draft, just like this lead up right now to free agency. And then of course in May you have OTAs. And towards the end of June, there's going to be more stuff going on as far as cuts around the league. And then, of course, in July, the training camp start, and before you know it, the season started. So, with that said, with the scouting combine right here in the month of March, the NFL is not going to sacrifice ratings. For that, of course, the NFL is all about ratings, pushing the Thursday night game scenarios. You name it. I can just go right down the list with things. But nonetheless, the scouting combine is going to be here, at least for right now. I know that NFLPA head DeMaurice Smith has, called for changes. Will that happen? We have to wait and see. But nonetheless, I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinion. It's up to you whether you feel the scouting combine is still legit. It served its purpose. Is it a dinosaur of the past? We don't know. But nonetheless, for me, I do think that some teams put too much stock into it as far as trying to go out there and find their talent. But at the end of the day, that's the nature of the game. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.